Alright, greetings guys, Hollow here back with another video. Today I had to re-record this actually, which is always fun to do. Now before we get into this video, I want to say I have a DeviantArt now, which I will link to in the description, probably right up there, as well as down in the description down below. Now if you like, obviously be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. Also make sure to, check my DeviantArt out. I haven't put it on the channel yet, but I'm going to right after this. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and let's get straight into the video today. So, today's video is something different. Originally I was going to do this in the spirit of St. Patty's Day, which I semi-did, as far as, doing the Speedpaint portion of this. But the story came afterwards, so I decided to end it, do it on, the next day. So, what this is a nice little anime story time. I've been watching a lot of those recently, specifically a YouTuber called Chaos55T. Really nice YouTuber. I really like their content. Go check them out. Link to their channel in the description as well. And, so naturally, as you can probably tell, I did the speed paint before actually recording the story, because I'm very unorganized. So we're gonna be looking at that, so I make sure I get all this correct. So, ahead of time, our story consists of 4 people. Core, Alexandrite, we're changing names to, protect the innocent, Alexandrite, Thorak, and then a teacher, Mr. Drag. Again, not all real names, but that's what we're going with, and one of them is just based on the type of creature I see them as. So Mr. Drag naturally is the dragon. Like in my eyes a dragon, but not like the nice dragons like in How to Train Your Dragon, but like the greedy ones. The one that'll just sit on their pile of gold and just explain their life story if you try to approach them, and then eat you or chew you out, sort of thing. That's the type of creature I see this teacher as, because that's kind of what they do. Half the time, though, what they do in their class, it's a computer class, and what they do is they will spend a good portion of their time in class, and by that I mean most of their time in that class, with a specific student, which, is always fun. Well, it's not like everyone else has their hands up. I remember one time, we had an hour for class, just that 1 hour. Usually we have like an hour 30 or something. We had just the 1 hour, and Mr. Drag went off with one student for almost a full solid 50 minutes, and then for the rest of the time in class, with like half the people in the classroom with raising their hands, went to another student, and this was fairly recent too. And that's just how he's been all the time. So he teaches drafting in my school, drafting 1 and 2. I've had both so far. And what had happened is, that day, one day in class, it was approaching the end of the school year, and we're all tired, we all trying to get those last projects done beforehand. And Mr. Drag looks at us and tells us, alright, you have this amount of time before the final, which we didn't even have one in the class anyways. So with that logic in mind now, we realize that what happened was kind of pointless. But with that in mind, we had a few weeks left, and we're trying to get stuff done. But I was having trouble, and like I said, Mr. Drag isn't really good at being with multiple students at a time. You end up kind of having to fend for yourself in some scenarios. So I had to ask my friend Alexandrite, who's just like in front of his desk and across from me. And I look at him and I'm like, hey, can you help me with these projects? He tells me, sure, yeah, I can help. And then realized that Mr. Drag doesn't really like him getting up from his seat. So I decided, okay, here, give me that thumb drive that you have. Because I had brought the thumb drive that day because I had some new Steven Universe episodes from the time being that he wanted to watch, because I got him into Steven Universe, which was fun and amazing. I got him into the show, and he wanted to watch those new episodes, so I brought them on a thumb drive, because the Twitter had them for download, and I gave it to him. So he had put that on his computer that exact same day. He remembered that I had the thumb drive. He's like, here, okay, hand me the thumb drive. Let's hand it to him. He puts the projects on there, and then quickly, while Mr. Drag is off with another student, goes over how to do each one of them, which I appreciate if you ever watch this video. Water. So after that, he did that and helped me with the rest of them until I knew what I was doing, and then I finished all the projects, luckily, before that final exam we didn't have. And then Thrak and another person beside me who I'm calling Count. I couldn't put him in the picture because I had absolutely no idea where to go, and I was too tired to do art for him as well. Alexandra had already had art done for them. Thrak, I made that one up on the fly. Mr. Drag, I made that one up on the fly. Happy about how both of them came out though. So anyways, with that, what happened was I let them, take the thumb drive, and I was like, here, go ahead. Would you like me to search it up? Oh, I told you how to do it. I'm like, no. We'll just put them on there, change the names, and then turn it back in. Which in my mind, I was like, I didn't think about that one before. But that's alright, because I didn't know how to do it later on in the class. So, that's how it went. And we fast forward to the last week of school. Last 2 weeks of school. First week, we actually had classes. The second week was exams, final exams. So we get there, and, me and Alexandra, we almost kind of had like a business going on. We didn't sell them, but it was one of the things where me and him, we did the projects, and then Thrak and Count would ask for the projects, and then, put them onto their computer. Which in and of itself was honestly a pretty interesting experience as is. So fast forward, last day before finals, and Mr. Drag is walking around, and then Thrak, who sits next to me, Mr. Drag walks beside him, looks at his computer for a second, and questions, how come? Where did you get these projects? How are you doing them? To which I was wondering, okay, why is he asking that? Turns out, Thrak, because we're obviously not the brightest people in the world, Thrak forgot to put on his 3D toolbar for the program we were using. So, and you can't do the 3D images without it. But he got them all done, which was an interesting thing that we should have checked out beforehand. And the thing is, when he talks, Mr. Drag talks, it's one of those things where it makes everyone else in the class feel uncomfortable. So if he's talking to the person who sits next to you, you kind of feel obligated to walk away and just let that play out and then go back. So naturally that's what me and Count did, because it was Thrak, me, Count. I just hit my mic. And then across the room was Alexandra. That was kind of like seen as our safe haven while Thrak was being talked to. So we walked over there because, we could still hear the conversation from over there without being directly in his line of sight. So we're just sitting there, we're pretending to help Alexandra, and then we hear the question again, where did you get these projects from? And the room got silent because he said that loud so that everyone could hear. It's like, where did you get these projects from? We all look, and then Alexandrite's like, well, it's been a pleasure knowing you, because he's thinking that he's going to get in trouble because he's going to be ratted out. Because the way Mr. Drag talks is intimidating, so everyone, wants to just get it over with, tell the truth or whatever, and then just have him go on his way. And Thrak looks at him in the calmest way possible and says, "I got it from a senior." Which is partly correct, seeing as he did use my thumb drive that I didn't have that day. So, Mr. Drag didn't hear him the first time apparently or something, and was like, "What?" Like, "Yeah, I got it from a senior who was in this class last year." And we looked and we were like, "There's no way Mr. Drag is gonna believe that." Mr. Drag says, "Well, okay, I don't believe that, but I'll let it slide." And we were all astounded because we did not think that's what was going to happen. And Mr. Drag is like, "Okay, but as punishment, all the three 3D things that we have done to do in class, he's gonna count them as missing, he's gonna put in zeros, and then Thrak will have to redo them." Which, fun fact, I don't think he did. I think he actually just did the same thing from before, this time with the toolbar on. So that way he actually got it done. I think he did one of them and had Mr. Drag help him, but other than that, everything else, he just did the exact same thing with it, which was interesting to see how little Mr. Drag actually pays attention. Like I said, and the thumb drive, I guess the main thing was I didn't have it that day because I have another friend who I inadvertently call a Ruby, who also likes Steven Universe, and they asked me for the episodes that I gave Alexandra that day. So I gave them the thumb drive, and then they lost it. They still lost it. They still have no idea where it is to this day. But that was kind of, I guess, the way of getting rid of the evidence. That plus the episodes take up so much space, you actually physically have to get rid of them in order to give them away. So, like I said, fast forward again. We all passed the class, and we looked through, because I think Infinite Canvas is what we use, and it says, what you got done that day, like when you got what done on what day. And we looked at the assignment grades, the assignment dates for Thrak and Count, and realized that they went from doing little to nothing from the full year to almost everything in the last 2 weeks of school. So, and the funny thing is, and the interesting thing about that, also fun fact, is that he never suspected it was us, and he only suspected it because he didn't have the 3D stuff wasn't on Thrak's computer. But like I said, I'm in the class again this semester, and this semester he looks over at another student in our classroom. I don't know their name, and I can't really give them a fake name, but they were actually doing their work. They actually do their work all the time, and they had made, and there was a certain part of our first few assignments in this second part of the drafting class where if you messed up, you'd have a bunch of extra layers that you couldn't exactly delete right away. Mr. Drek failed to acknowledge that fact and would always go around, and if you had those extra layers but nothing on them, would always say, "Where'd you get the project from?" So one person did that, and it was already someone who Mr. Drag didn't trust all that much, so he took them outside and then yelled at them for a long time before coming back in, and we all explained how the assignment actually works. And then Mr. Drag felt bad, and then just kind of moved on from there. It was funny, really, as it was one of those things where, and everyone in the class, majority of the people there was in the drafting 1 class. And the funny thing is, they all looked at me and Alexandra Count, and were like, "So he suspects other people, but he didn't suspect you guys." It was a funny thing, really. But yeah, that's the end of that story. I have another one I'm gonna tell next week, but I'm just gonna stop at this one for now. Thank you guys for watching. Leave, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you all next time.